Welcome back to Ta-da 3D printing. I've been super anxious to print the Adalinda dragon in the 5 colors on the Prusa XL. But I've also been kind of nervous because I've had such issues with stringing and other things, and this is going to be a really large print, but I think I'm ready to tackle it. I didn't want to just use the pre-sliced G-code that came on the USB with my XL because there's been a lot of updates to firmware and slicers and all sorts of things since then. So I was finally able to find this on printables, and for some reason when I clicked on this, because the picture is just 2 colors, I was thinking that it was just for a 2 tool head. But when I get farther in, I do see that there's different files, different folders. There's only one 3MF file, so I download that one and hope that it is the 5 color. And when I open it, I do see, once I slice it, that it is the 5 color. All 5 are listed on the left here, but it's not really split out by category or by color. So it's not like I've been able, for example, on the Cheshire Cat by Red Dad Steve, that I was able to change the eyes from yellow to white. I don't see any option here on kind of grouping things or changing colors. And since there's 2 kind of silvers listed, I'm not sure which one's which. I try to go in and change what I can here because I also wanted to see what my colors were going to be like. I didn't want to use exactly the stock colors that it showed, and I wanted to see before I start such a massive print what it's going to look like. But I'm not really seeing a way to do that. It's letting me change what looks like maybe the most recent things, these 2 areas, and I really wanted to do a red dragon, but I'm not seeing a way to do that. I'm sure I'm missing something there. I'm not seeing anything with the painting. It's just going to repaint the whole thing, which I don't have the focus to be able to go through and paint this whole thing completely from scratch. And I want to print what they've already got sliced. So I just undo that paint change and slice it and see how it's going to look. Just automatically the stock 3MF. I haven't changed anything. I am going to speed this up, but the slicing takes over 2 minutes for it to go through the whole process. And for some reason, I was thinking that with the newer slicer, this binary G code, that was going to be sped up, but maybe I misunderstood that, and that's just the process of sending it over to the printer if you're using wireless, and I'm not doing that. I'm still putting it on a USB. So with these settings, it's saying that it's going to take 2 days and 17 hours to print this, and I'm a little nervous about this filament 1 that says that it's going to take 800 grams. That's going to be almost an entire roll of filament. So I lose my nerve a little bit and decide that I'm going to do a test print. I'm going to scale it down. The current size that's pretty much maxed out is a little over 14 inches tall, so I'm going to scale it down to 50% scale, and that puts it at just a little under 3 inches tall, and this will take 3 hours and 44 minutes at the current settings. I am running this print at the most up-to-date slicer, which is the 2.7.0, and the most up-to-date firmware, which is the beta. And I go through and change out all the filament. The main color, I'm going to use black, which is the Prusa Mint Galaxy Black. It is a brand new roll that I just put on there. I really like this color. I think it'll be perfect. And then I'm going to be using 2 colors of silver. This one is the Overture in Space Gray, which none of these are showing the color on the filament. And then Overture in red instead of orange. And then the second color of silver that I'm using is Overture in Royal Silver. It's a little bit lighter. And then the last thing is going to be white for the eyes. So I've got everything loaded, and now I can get this print going. I do notice that I'm not seeing the picture when I put the USB in, and I'm hoping that I don't have something mixed up here, but I'm going to go ahead and try it anyways. The other reason that I wanted to try a small version is I wanted to see how the colors would look together. And overall, I think the colors are cool, but this print turned out horrible. It is not just stringy, it's bubbly, I guess is the best way to put that. The front legs didn't print. Well, they kind of printed and then they broke, it looks like. And yeah, just not good looking at all. Makes me very, very glad that I didn't just immediately jump into a multiple day long print. And as soon as I see that stringing, I realize I didn't change anything. I didn't change the temperature. I didn't change it to input shaping. I just ran it immediately from the download. The only thing I really did was scale it down. And of course, something scaled down is going to have a little more issues with the 0.6 nozzle, but this is just not going to work. So I need to adjust that a little bit. I'm back in Slicer and I make a couple of changes. Of course, the most important one is I'm going to change the temperature. I don't know why I had even thought to leave that at 215, so I put it at 190. That's what's been working for me. I add the brim and then I switch it over to Input Shaper. And again, I'm still having this kind of quirky bug that even though it's at Input Shaper, it's still showing that my layer height is detail, and so it's not really changing anything. So I switch from the detail to 0.2 structural. And when I do that, I know that it does clear things because my brim disappears. So that's a little quirky. I should have caught that. I didn't catch it until after I was already printing. And just to make sure that I am going to be printing the correct thing, I do align this because the towers actually was showing kind of inside the wing. So now it's going to be printing towards the back in the center of the print bed. And this saves me a little bit of time. It's going to be 3 hours and 2 minutes, so it is a little faster. Okay, so I've got this one printing, and of course all my filaments are still loaded, and it's just kind of fun to see the tool heads swap back and forth. Most of it is the red and the black, which is 1 and 3, and I still haven't figured out which silver is which or why, but they do all go through, everything prints fine. Except I do realize that I messed up on that brim and the feet had already broken, which is maybe good because I messed up and just completely threw the print right off the bed. Okay, this is significantly better. It doesn't have that crazy bubble, almost, it just looked too hot. The temperature looked too hot to me on the other one. There is a little bit of fine stringing and it's a little bit rough. On the back, I don't feel like it looks too bad. I feel like the wings are pretty good on the coloring and the detail. The black and the red I feel like look a little rough on the front. And I feel like maybe that's just because it's so little. And of course the feet broke, but all the colors worked, the white eyes worked. I don't know which silver's which. I'm guessing one silver is on the wings and the other silver is on the tail. But I think it looks cool. I think it's good enough that I want to just go ahead and scale it up. So let's see what it comes up with. So I right click on it and I do the scale to print volume, and I think it ends up being just a hair larger than the original one, which is fine. Let's make it gigantic. I check that my temperature is still at 190 and that's good. And I start thinking about doing lightning infill, and I do switch it over. I do slice it. I wait another 2 minutes for this to slice, and when it finishes, I realize that even though I had aligned it, it's not liking the size or just the position of everything because it's telling me that it's going to be outside the build plate. So I scoot the print tower over just a little bit to the left, and if I did run this on Input Shaper, it would be 1 day, 13 hours. But as I was waiting there for it to slice, I decided I'm not going to do the lightning because I had such an issue with the Cheshire Cat, with the input shaping and the lightning together. I had the infill kind of, I think that's what the error was, that it was kind of curling up out of it and it ended up messing up the print. So I switched back to just regular input shaping and regular grid infill. So that changes the print time to 1 day, 18 hours, or 42 hours, which may be the longest single print that I've done on the Prusa XL. So I get this print going, and I'm still a little bit nervous that the colors are going to look how I want and that everything's going to work out now that it's scaled up. But it starts printing and it's sticking to the bed okay. I did make sure that I did have the brim, and it looks like it's doing good. Switching between the red and the black is the main thing it's doing right now, and I'm really happy with it. I'm getting more and more excited as it's going along. I checked on it here and I felt like everything was looking really good. It's sticking really good. The black looks good. The tool change is working good. I noticed that the prime tower is a funny color. It's like a mixture of the red and the black. It's kind of this muddy brown color almost. But everything looks like it's going good. When I had swapped the color from the orange to the red, I really wanted that red belly for the dragon. And just because the way that the coloring was already done, already kind of pre-painted, the toenails are red as well. And at first, I wasn't really sure that I would like that, but I had a couple comments about it looked like that a frog or something has a pedicure, which I think is great. That fits really well. And I did want it to seem like a female dragon, like the other one that I had done that was a pink. So I think the red toenails work out real good for that. I check on it again when I get home from work the next day, which is about 30 hours into this print, and it is still looking amazing. The wings, the color of that's starting to come together. The tail looks like it's completely done with the color change on that. So I'm really happy with this. I keep an eye on it as well as it keeps going. I did notice that the tower kind of changed from that muddy, reddy brown to now it's at black. So it must be doing just a lot more black, a lot less red, which makes sense. That belly and the feet, that's all done. And the next morning, I was expecting it to just be completely done, but when I walked in, it was erroring and beeping at me. And it's paused with not that much left to go. I was expecting it to be a crash, but I've never seen this error before. It says that the tool changer problem has been detected, park all tools to docks, and leave the carriage free. And then it has a little circle on 1 and 3 tool heads, but the other ones still have green checks. There's no QR code to tell me what to do, and there's no continue button, so I assume that this is something I have to do. It's not just something to like reset and let it rehome. Toolhead 1 is still out, so I just assume that it's going to let me manually push it back and try to redock it. And I do push it back, I push it back over, and I can't really get it to dock very easily because it is still on the x-axis. I'm trying not to mess with it too much. I'm also trying really hard not to bump the print because you can see where my arm is. I'm like touching the wing a little bit. So I'm super nervous that I'm going to mess something up. And I don't know if anybody else goes into just like full on panic mode like I do. I start thinking, okay, do I have enough filament to run this again? It's going to take almost another roll of filament of the Galaxy Black. I don't think I have a new roll. And I just try really hard on this one to like calm down and think this through and don't make any stupid choices because this is close to 40 hours into this print. So I really don't want to just mix something up. I do notice that the toolhead 1 and 3 are flashing yellow rather than green. And so yes, that's definitely some issue going on there. I finally realized I can just take this off of the front and it sets in place good. And it takes me a second to realize that it's fine and change to green because it's still beeping. Okay, so now I have a green check on toolhead 1, so I just need to do the same process with toolhead 3. You can see that that one is still flashing yellow. So I just kind of quickly check this to see what's going on, and it's like the magnet didn't quite catch on the top, so it just wasn't sitting correctly. I have all green checks, and once it reheats, it continues printing. It says it's at 97% and only has an hour to go. I have to go to work. I'm already late, but I do have Caitlin and Natalie that help me out. And so I go to work and I kind of explain to them what's going on. I said, if you see anything crazy, text me. And I mainly was focused on what the error, noises would be, what would happen. And unfortunately, it doesn't do any crash, but the tower falls over and gosh, I mean, looking back at this, it just makes me sick that it was so close. It does still have the crash detection turned on, but it never pauses. But the girls notice that the tower's knocked over, so I tell them to pause it and I hurry home to figure out what is going on. I didn't realize that it had printed for quite so long without the tower being there. So I just try to put the tower back in place because I feel like that's the only thing I really can do. I glue it down, I tape it down, and then realize there's way too much of a gap. So I just kind of babysit it and try to pull the filament as much as I can as it does do the color change. It's finally down to just the black tool head. It's not going to be changing, so I think there's no more issues, but it does start crashing on the wing, and then it doesn't completely finish, but it says it's at 100%, and this is what I'm left with. The very, very tops of the wings are not quite done. There's just like a little bit left, but it says it's at 100%. It's completely done printing. So I've got some strings, I've got some whiskers, I guess, on this dragon, and it's mostly printed. Okay, so let's get this off the print bed and see how it looks. The red whiskers look like I can pop them off easily, but I don't have any eyes. Those are supposed to be white, and the white did not print at all. You can just see like a hollow space. I have no idea what happened with that. Okay, so let's focus on the good parts. This dragon, the body looks so good. I know that Galaxy hides stuff, but I mean, I'm not even seeing layer lines. I know this is 0.2, so I mean, it should be pretty detailed. This is 0.2 structural. You can see a little layer lines on the very top of the feet, but this is beautiful. I mean, the Galaxy looks so good. The red and the black look so clean, so detailed. There is no, bleeding of the colors. It's very, very clean. The tail looks good. The wings look good. The colors between that, I think it was painted very well. But I do notice as I'm getting over to this side that this wing is loose. And that makes sense because it did crash. I didn't realize how hard it had crashed. But yeah, I'm going to have to be really careful that that doesn't pop off. And then, of course, you can see on top, not only did it not finish, but there are some strings, of course, from the black when it did the tool changing. Yeah. So overall, I think it could have been a knockout. It's just so close. I look at these colors though as I'm cleaning up. I have a dark gray, a light gray, and I do have a white purge. So I have no idea why the white didn't print because it purged. It's not like I didn't load it correctly, and it did print on the smaller ones as well. And as I get it into different light, you can see where those pauses were. There is a line, there's a couple lines here along the nose where it paused and I had to move some things. It must have homed pretty decent. And on the tower, I see a little bit of skips here along the bottom. I don't see that on the print, which is great. You want those skips on the tower, not on the print. I mean, it looks so good if it hadn't crashed at the very, very end. And here's the print tower so you can get an idea of how it was crashing. It just is pretty messy looking. So, of course, I'm just ready to do a new print. Let me know what you think I should print next. I'd like it to be 5 colors again. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching.